The Electoral College will cast their votes later on today, formally picking Joe Biden to be the next president of the United States. But President Trump is vowing to continue fighting the election results. So, Ben Tracy has been following this story. He's joining us now to explain a few things for us. So, Ben, you know, the Electoral College, this whole process is something that I think most people never really paid much attention to. You sort of registered that today is the official day, according to the Constitution, but then everything else kind of unfolds as you always expect it to, as it always has. This is the first year that I think many of us find ourselves contemplating all possibilities, legal and otherwise. Can we expect any surprises during today's Electoral College vote?
I would not expect a lot of surprises, but you are right. Usually the mechanics of these elections, this stuff happens in the background. Most of us don't pay attention to it, but we are this year because of what President Trump continues to say, that he continues to allege without proof that there is widespread fraud, and he's contesting these election results. But when the Electoral College meets today, that should be the final word on this. Once they cast their votes, Joe Biden expected to get 306 of those votes, President Trump 232 of them. The way this works is you have the 538 members of the Electoral College meet in the states across the country. Normally it would be in the state capitals. This year, because of COVID, it's happening in various locations. Some people are doing it virtually to remain extra safe. But once those votes are cast, that does mean that Joe Biden is the official winner of the election. There are times when there are what are called faithless electors, people who are supposed to go vote for, let's say, Joe Biden or President Trump, but they switch their vote and vote for somebody else. That is rare, and it would take a whole lot of those votes to really change the outcome of this election. This is not the final say on this. Congress has the final say on January 6th when they open up all the envelopes of those votes, read them out loud, and the person who gets to officially announce the winner of the election is the President of the Senate. That is Vice President Mike Pence. Awkward.
Yeah, just a little bit. But, you know, sort of in the meantime, though, the president is kind of continuing to fight on what he says, you know, is a fraudulent election. And many of his supporters back him on that. This weekend, we saw huge crowds protesting the election results in Washington. And there were counter-protesters who met those crowds. There were arrests, there were stabbings. You know, sometimes when this stuff is covered on the news, it's really difficult to get a sense of what's actually happening on the ground, as much as reporters try to sort of give us a proper snapshot. But you live in D.C. You know, give us a sense of what was the atmosphere like there over the weekend?
Yeah, it was really tense and it was really chaotic, especially at night when you saw some of those groups clash with each other. During the day, it was more just a demonstration. A lot of pro-Trump supporters in Washington, D.C. We even saw President Trump on his way to the Army-Navy game. He flew Marine One over the demonstrators, over his supporters, as a show of support for them. People on the ground, our teams on the ground, reported that once they saw the helicopter go over, that they were quite ecstatic to see that. But then what you're seeing there on the screen, this is what happened later in the day, where you had these pro-Trump and anti-Trump forces basically clashing in the street. There were police officers injured, there were people stabbed. So this did not go well here in Washington, D.C. And, you know, being in the city, you'd walk around on Saturday and you would see these trucks of people driving down the street with Trump flags flying out the back, kind of all over town. So you had a real presence of these pro-Trump supporters here in Washington this weekend.
And of course, the Supreme Court was the site of one of those protests this weekend after the court refused to hear the president's latest challenge to the election results. Many saw it as a real sort of Hail Mary, super long shot. But can you just sort of tell us what the Supreme Court concluded? What happened with that case?
Yeah, so that was Friday night when the Supreme Court issued this very short 3-sentence decision that they were not going to hear this case that was originally brought by the Attorney General of Texas. And basically, the Supreme Court said Texas does not have standing to bring this case to the Supreme Court, because keep in mind what this lawsuit was the Attorney General of Texas basically saying that the people of Texas were harmed by the way that other states conducted their elections. So he was alleging that there was fraud in all these other states, that because they allowed people to vote by mail and didn't always verify signatures, that those elections were somehow fraudulent and that impacted the people of Texas. The Supreme Court said that's not how this works. That did not impact the people of Texas, so you don't have standing here. This was particularly stinging, though, for President Trump because, one, he has pretty honestly said said many times that he expected the Supreme Court to decide this election and decide it in his favor. The 3 justices that he appointed to the Supreme Court, all 3 of them voted against hearing this case.
Yes, I think he suggested that the judges are lacking courage as opposed to following the law. Ben, thank you so much.
Thanks.